Hello and welcome to Dare to Know, interviews with quality and reliability thought leaders. I'm Tim Rogers, and today we present a special interview recorded by Fred Schenkelberg with Jim McLinn, Principal Reliability Consultant at Ops a la carte. Jim McLinn has an MS in Solid State Physics from the University of Minnesota and has worked in the semiconductor and biomedical industries. He has broad experience working to help companies become more competitive. During his career, his responsibilities included reliability predictions, leading FMEA teams, running ALT and HALT tests, and working with international subsidiaries. Jim has served on the ASQ Reliability Division Board and the IEEE Reliability Society AdCom. He has published 3 monographs with ASQ, Weibull analysis, mechanical reliability, and accelerated life test. Jim has taught a variety of classes and spoken at many reliability conferences around the world. Fred talked with Jim about the upcoming 2017 Accelerated Stress Testing and Reliability Conference, co-sponsored by the IEEE Reliability Society and the ASQ Reliability Division, which will be held in Austin, Texas from September 27th to 29th. Let's join Fred's conversation with Jim McLinn.
So welcome to Dare to Know. This is Fred Schenkelberg, and I'm very happy to sit down second time now in this program with Jim McLinn. So welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Fred. I'm happy to be here in lovely Orlando today. It's sunny and warm.
And it's sunny and warm. I think Sunday and Monday it was a bit blustery.
Blustery, yeah, tornado weather. Wow, that was exciting.
That's right. Some of our colleagues were Carl in particular, he's in an RV nearby.
Yes.
They're second to mobile homes for tornado attraction.
Yes, well, this conference is, because I can remember over the last 30 years I've been going to the conference, how many times we've had bad weather.
Ice storms and snow and just the airports sometimes. So this time it was the airport here. That delayed my flight. It was the weather in Orlando, so that was unusual. But we're here, we're having a good time, and the last time we talked about volunteering and community work, which you are continuing to do. You're still very active in a number of different areas. You're into consulting, you've written, I've lost count of how many papers and booklets and books and all kinds of good stuff. But what caught my eye this week is, and it's not just this week, you've been promoting it for a while now, is the ASTR, the Applied Stress Testing Reliability?
Accelerated Stress Testing.
Accelerated Testing.
And Reliability. The ASTR conference, small conference that deals in very specific topics on accelerated stress testing because they're unique. That conference has started in the 90s, it's been going on many years. Currently sponsored by the IEEE Reliability Society and the American Society for Quality Reliability Division. So that's a good marriage between the two groups where they can cooperate and work on reliability topics.
They're not really competitors, but sometimes you think so.
Well, it's like a marriage, you know, the partners poke at each other a little bit as they make progress together.
That's right. I went to the conference in San Francisco, and I know it's been in Montreal, it's been in Austin, it's been in Minneapolis. I think you were involved with getting it to Minneapolis at one point some time ago.
I've been involved in the last 3. I went to San Diego at the request of somebody to help him out. Mm-hmm. It was Mike Silverman, and he needed help because it got dumped in his lap. And so he looking for volunteers. And I had a great time in San Diego. I did a couple papers and worked registration. After that, we went to, it was actually St. Paul.
St. Paul, right.
People in St. Paul get very touchy if you say Minneapolis or St. Paul, but that's part of the rivalry between the two towns, even though they're twins, as they call themselves. And it was a great conference. We had a lot of good local support from the IEEE chapter, which I chaired for many years, the Reliability Society chapter, and many good speakers. Then we went to Boston. Another great conference.
They have a pretty active local community.
They do. It's such a high-tech area, and we had many people. Right next to MIT, I had fun walking around the MIT campus.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you break into any locks?
Went into the bookstore and my God, what are these kids reading? College seems like so long ago when I look at some of their textbooks.
Oh yeah. It's a changed environment.
Yeah.
The thing though that comes across to me in these conferences is it is smaller. It's not as big as RAMS.
Yes.
It's, 50, 100 people.
Yeah.
Is kind of the realm I see.
Yes.
And it's yet it's a spot where you can dive deep into those discussions, and you're with the people that are really all focused on accelerated testing in one form or another. And it's a focused conference, I think, is what makes the discussion so much more relevant.
Yes. It's not only focused, but you get to talk to some of the big names in the whole accelerated testing area, people who've written the books or delved into it. We've had Wayne Nelson. Last year our keynote was William Meeker. It was in Pensacola last year, which was a great place, and William came and gave us a good keynote and spent the time with us. And got so many people got a chance to talk with him. He's written many monumental papers on accelerated testing with Meeker and Hahn, Meeker and Escobar, and there's a whole bunch of Meeker and papers.
That's right.
As well as his own. And it's great to be able to do that because many times the learning is in the follow-up questions on the side. Okay, how do you do this, or what do you think is the best way, and it's nice to be able to get a chance to talk with all the speakers.
That's right.
When you're doing that, and a small conference affords that.
In this big conference, there's some ability to do that. It takes more effort to make it happen because there's so many things going on, and oftentimes the speaker's like, "Oh, I need to moderate the next session, or I need to go to this," and they're moving. Yeah,
that is true because with a small conference, it only takes 3 people to run it on site. So you're not drawing all the interesting people off because they have to moderate a session, as you were saying, or get ready for the next, or meet with somebody, or do something else.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're not staying in San Diego all the time because it's the more laid back, relaxed atmosphere, and that stuff. Is there a reason it moves from city to city?
Yeah, yes, there is, and typically we're trying to cover the U.S. and environs. We've been to Canada as well several times over the history of the conference. We like to move around to high-tech areas to get everybody a chance because this type of conference has a large local draw. Typically we contact some of the professional engineering societies that delve in the accelerated testing methods, and it gives an opportunity for people to go to a conference at home. Oftentimes they can't get away, or there's costs involved with taking that airplane ride and the expensive hotels that can sometimes ensue. But by moving this conference around the U.S. and other high-tech cities, it gives people a chance to go there periodically. That's wonderful.
And it also makes you building connections with people that are local.
Yes.
But the speakers are coming from all over the place. You really do a good job of getting the word out and attracting speakers from all over the place.
Yes, in the last couple of years, on the conference we've had speakers from Europe as well as the Far East, China, Korea, Japan, come to that conference. And I think there's a strong desire to learning in some areas. So they're coming, they're meeting the needs, and the people are attending from all over the world too, because about a quarter of our people are outside the U.S., which is what we want. We want this to be an international conference as much as possible. I'd love to see this conference go to other cities, but it's not quite ready to go do that because we're not professional enough or not experienced enough to make that happen with a smaller group. Because I've attended international conferences in other cities, in other countries, and it's real difficult to pull off.
It is. You need a local team to make it happen a lot of times.
Because of that, we've selected Austin, Texas in 2017. And Austin will be September 27th to 29th in Austin, Texas, at the downtown Hilton Garden Inn is where it'll be. And that should be a great site. Austin's a wonderful high-tech city. There's a lot going on there. Many high-tech manufacturers. There's the University of Texas has a campus there. There's the semiconductor.
The semiconductor industry's been there for a while. There's also a lot of startups in and around the area. So you should get a good local draw. That'd be good. So but it is in Texas, though. Come on, Jim.
Oh, Texas is wonderful. What do you mean? Yahoo! As long as you don't root for the Dallas Cowboys, I don't care.
I was going to ask you about that.
Anyway, but we've already got cooperation with 2 of the IEEE chapters down there, and we're working with them to help promote it because we go out to reliability people, we go out to biomedical people, we go out to materials people, and others. We also have components manufacturing technology people. They used to be a sponsor of it as well.
The Fort Worth section from ASQ's got a big active section, I think, the last I knew.
Yes.
So they're not too far away.
Yeah, the whole Dallas-Fort Worth area, they like to put them together like the Twin Cities.
Well, Fort Worth will take exception in that case. They have a much more active section than the Dallas section.
Absolutely. And so we've contacted all those people, and we'll continue to do so to help promote this conference. This is an example you alluded to early on in this conversation about volunteerism, something we can give back. That's one of the reasons I'm involved with these, because when I was a young reliability engineer just learning, I always needed to go to conferences and talk to people to gather more than one can find out of a book. So now I'm trying to give some of that back by helping to promote and sustain these conferences and talking with people and getting out there and doing that outreach.
No, you're also, I mean, you've done webinars, and I know I've talked to you on the different webinars and so on, and those seem to be growing. I mean, the ASQ section and Hobbs Engineering, and Diane and I list as many of the reliability-related webinars as we can. And the one for January, I think we had 30 events, and it just continues to grow. And people are adding more and more events. Is that taking away from the face-to-face at all, do you think, or is there other forces that are causing this to happen?
Well, I have no doubt that some of the webinars are taking away from the face-to-face meetings at conferences, but conferences have their own hurdle because you have to take time off work, you have to get expenses, get the boss to approve it, and that's often difficult. Webinars are the alternative where you need that learning, and yet you can do it in 1 or 2 hour segments. If they're done that way, or sometimes they're all day.
Or sometimes they're recorded too, and you can come back to them later. And
that's wonderful if you can do that and put out.
You do miss though the networking part, the interaction piece. So I think that's still the draw for the face-to-face thing.
Well, I think the face-to-face thing had many draws, as well as being able to talk to the speakers and catching them afterward on the side. It's other people that you meet or you've known and can provide you information, help, guidance, whatever it is going on. You can't do that with a webinar.
It's harder to do.
It's much harder.
Is you need to make sure that the attendees to the webinar can see each other. I'm using air quotes here because it's usually through a chat window or some dialogue thing. And I know from the webinars, you start to hear the same people asking questions. And in a couple of them, you see conversations between participants in the chat window.
Yes.
And so it's possible, it's not near as prevalent as the face-to-face.
But the technology is advancing, so I think they'll be improving in the future because it's no longer the single, one question at a time, or you have to type in questions ahead. And
that's right.
So I'm excited about the technology improvement because the connectivity of the world. I've done webinars where I had people in Europe and the Far East at the same time, and asking questions and dealing with that with their own issues because of time zone problems as well. So
somebody's always up at midnight attending it.
Oh, somebody's always up at midnight or 6 in the morning.
That's right.
Having to attend, and I think the webinars, as you said, recorded. Once they're recorded and brought, you can replay them. Oftentimes, many people sustain that. All recorded webinars.
It's interesting though, is if you look at the stats for, you might get 200 people attend the live event and there's interaction and stuff, and then it may end up with 20 views over the next month of a recorded event.
Yes.
People that have schedule change and they really wanted to go to it. And I've asked people to take advantage of the recording, and there's a couple of hurdles with that. One is, it's even if I don't participate in the webinar, it's live. I could if I wanted to.
Yes.
And so it adds another engagement level or a level of, I could ask a question. So same as at a conference, is many people don't stand up and ask a question or approach the authors, yet they could. And here you get the body language. At the conferences, you get the body language and much more rich communication. Whereas if you're doing a recording, it's another piece of friction to ask a question. You have to find the email, you have to find, you have to take extra steps outside of the event to go do it. So it's a progression of, and so like reading a paper is another activity that's a little less rich in its communication because it's just typed text. I'm going to come back to the networking part and the interaction piece of that. I think it was at Rams one year. And I asked you about your networking and how you have interacted with people and what you like doing. And then you demonstrated it. You said, what I like to do is introduce two people that really should get to know each other, and then I leave. I get out of the way. And I've seen you do that so many times now that you cued me into this cue. But so if go to the ASTR conference just so Jim can introduce you to the people that will really help you in your career. Because I think the way you told that story that's a large part of how you got started with getting to know the right people that really helped you learn and move forward.
That is true, and I remember that as a young engineer, but most of it was within one company. But then as I started going to conferences, I met other people. People introduced me to other people, just as we're talking about, and that was a big help. I maintained those connections over my career and continue that with people. I've done that, just as you said, last night at dinner. With a couple different groups.
Yeah.
So-and-so ought to meet so-and-so. Here's a...
And you make a quick introduction and they have something to talk about and you let them work it out. Be careful though. I'm going to warn the audience that be careful because Jim will also get you involved in committees and volunteer work and extra activities. It's all to give back to the community because there's a lot of talent out there.
There is, and that's another way to meet people and help you with your professionalism and your career advancement. By talking to people and meeting them, the reliability community is really wonderful. They're mostly very good people. Some of them are a little shy, so you'll have to approach them. If you want to get things out of them, many write papers rather than they don't want to give a presentation because they're shy. So you have to go take the initiative.
Now for the ASTR, when I presented there in San Francisco, I don't remember having to do a paper like here at Rams. Is that still the case where you're not doing a technical paper along with the presentation?
Well, evolving ASTR, as you commented, it was a little less formal. We have technical presentations, PowerPoint primarily, but we're now asking for papers because we want to do two things. While the PowerPoint's very good, it gives you an outline of what's going on. With a paper, when the author writes the paper with the PowerPoint, you've got a whole picture between the two. You've got all the details and the summaries of PowerPoint, what you can talk about and they can add to personally. This makes it a more professional conference. We're also now we're able to work with IEEE and put those on the web. So you've got the
presentation,
papers.
or the papers can come along with it now.
As we did in last year in 2016.
Okay.
And that's now occurring, and that's our intent to develop this conference at a little more professional level.
To get a technical proceedings essentially in publishing that.
Yes, and IEEE is working with us. We're storing all of our archives through the University of Maryland. They've been very helpful with us. So we've got past conference proceedings. Anything's presently available can be found.
Is that through the Clark School of Engineering side of the reliability program there with Ollie Mosley, or is that through Kals and Michael Pack?
I think it's through Kals, but I don't know the details.
Which is interesting because, I mean, they do prognostic health management and physics of failure models, which is the work to support those things is accelerated testing oftentimes. They're not, I've never pictured Kals as a proponent of halt testing or of margin testing, highly accelerated testing. Is that a true perception in your opinion?
Well, I can't speak for all the Kals and every person there, but halt is one of the techniques for accelerated testing, for finding problems. And you can't just say, well, I don't like that technique, so I'll ignore it. You end up using it, and to me it has its place. Like many of the other tools we use, there's no one tool that does everything for everybody. I sat this morning and listened to, before this session, a guy from automotive company talking about their plans and how they evaluate. And they're very heavy on DOE and other upfront work on evaluating materials all before they do the testing, which is great. And then they do a very extensive testing.
Right.
And so that's a different approach because of the nature of their market.
Right.
They have to really look at those materials because long-term wear, fatigue, and changes are important to cars.
Yeah, especially my car. I asked them to send me the one that's good.
Send me a good one.
Yeah, the dealer, you know, the salesman at the dealership. Yep, this is the good one. This is the one they made right.
Well, that's the whole manufacturing side versus we're talking about the design side. But
Yeah,
you're right,
that's
manufacturing is part of it. That's part of the variation, variability that can be present.
That's
And
right.
you've got to take care of that as well into the design. HALT can help you do that because you just by using the extremes, you can quickly find some failure modes. You find a lot of materials issues or misfits and other things. You might not find wear.
And also finding interaction pieces and things that if you're focused on a particular failure mechanism, you're maybe isolating those interactions
Yes.
and avoiding them. Now, one question I got for you is, you've seen standards for reliability testing over the years. There's MIL Standard 810, and there's a handful of other test procedures and standards out there. Where do they fit into the pantheon of doing reliability engineering work?
Well, the MIL standards, a great place to start because that's where much of it began. But then there are various industrial standards as well. The catch with these standards is they tend to follow real time, so they're a lagging piece of information, but they present a series of standard tests that you can do. It doesn't matter whether you do it in San Diego or you do it in Boston. The company has the same standards to work with, or you do it in Munich or you do it in Seoul, Korea.
Right.
You've got the same standards, and so the same pretty much methods. In meeting those, you've got a common base. But often those aren't enough.
Right.
People are adding to the standards, and they slowly get updated and changed as people get smarter or applications get smarter.
Some standards, not all, but many standards, especially in the reliability realm of accelerated testing, often don't include what technology does this apply to. So you might have a perfectly good standard for evaluating a polymer structure, and then somebody applies it to glass.
Yes.
You know, it's a different failure mechanism. Acceleration factors don't apply.
Well, you have to be smart enough, and that's part of the things about going to conferences. You have to be smart to realize what are the limits and what are the variables. I did some work at a biomedical company a couple of years ago, and they were using military standards. And they wanted to reference them because they looked good, but they weren't enough for what they were trying to do.
It wasn't answering the questions they really needed.
Not all the questions on the failure modes and other things, because that was our base. We started with those standards and we went beyond. I wrote tests for things that they never thought about. One of the issues, because it's a human interface piece of equipment, was aerosols.
Right.
Aerosols in there. No one's going to stand on aerosols testing except for kitchens. Commercial kitchen industry has aerosol standard for measuring that. And it has nothing to do with biomedical, except they define things. So you can use that as an outline to set up a test for you and say, okay, if aerosols are important to the proper operation of this piece of biomedical equipment, I better have some idea of size range of aerosol particles, their impact, and how to produce.
And it gives you the language then to form the test and interpret your own use environment to something appropriate. Yeah.
So I'm cross-fertilizing two very divergent industries there.
It's funny though, there's a lot of not invented here still in the world. And you see it at these conferences and at ASTR is where you're sitting next to somebody in a consumer product and you're in an industrial product. You're facing essentially the same problems, and the tools we use are often the same. So let's wrap it up there and say, one, look for Jim.
I'll be around.
Wherever you run across him, because invariably he's going to introduce you to somebody that's going to make a difference in your career.
Yes.
So I know that for a fact. Plus, there's just a ton of stuff there to learn about. I think later in the year, we're recording this at the RAMS conference, but at some point the program's going to come up. I think the call for papers. We may have missed it by the time this comes out on air. but it's an annual conference, and if this year doesn't work for you, go to the next. But I think Austin's going to be a pretty cool venue.
I'm looking forward to that because we're already excited. We've got a program developed, we've got a committee, and we're building momentum. For those people who hear this, it's go to www.IEEE-ASTR.org.
All right, great.
And that gives you a website. I'm passing out the call for papers now, and we're putting it up on the web. And we're going to have a great conference in Austin and lots of cool people. Think of reliability engineers cool nowadays.
Definitely are. Well, thanks so much, Jim. Appreciate it.
Very good, Fred.
Right.
Thank you for having me.